So we began by looking at the literal meaning of this poem about a mother and son who are in the son's new house, and the mother's helping him to measure walls and windows and what have you. And then we get these two words at the end of the second stanza, anchor, kite. And you can say a huge amount about these two words. Let's have a think about what they might mean. Well, what are they? An anchor is something that holds a ship in place, something which is dropped from a ship and which anchors the ship and stops the ship from drifting away. And the kite is something which flies away from the kite flyer, the person flying the kite, but that can never fully get away because it's always going to be attached to a piece of string. And I think he uses these two words to represent two elements of the mother's relationship with the son. The anchor, she is the anchor. She's the one that is the stable point that anchors him in his life, that he might be tossed and thrown around in the storms of his own life, and yet he knows that there will be that one fixed point that he can revolve around. She will always be there. She will be there for him no matter how stormy his life becomes, no matter how much he drifts in his own life. That anchor fixes him to the ground, to the earth. And that links back again to this image that he had. And you can imagine him, you can imagine Simon Armitage the poet, and I do think this is a strongly autobiographical poem. I feel this is very much about Armitage. And you can imagine Armitage in the house with his mum, and you can imagine him with, reeling out this 10-metre tape from one end of the house to the next. He wanders up the stairs. And you can imagine him really seeing the symbolic meaning of that the mother is holding the other end, that he's moving away from her, that he's distancing himself from her, and yet she's still kind of attached to him in some way. And then we have the kite, and the kite is a very similar metaphor. The kite, he is the kite, and he is flying away from her. He's been caught on the breeze, moved this here, there and everywhere, and yet she is the one that's holding the string. She's kind of holding on to him so that he doesn't fly away. But he realises that he has to make a decision here, that the anchor and the kite are fine to a point, but he's going to be living on his own now, and he needs to be able to somehow cut that string or to move away from the anchor. It goes on in the last stanza, I spacewalk through the empty bedrooms, climb the ladder to the loft, to the breaking point. And I think this is the breaking point here. We see in a lot of Armitage's poetry these moments of, like a moment of truth, a moment where there's a sudden realisation. And this is the breaking point here. The breaking point is, does he fall or fly? Can he move away from his mother and actually be his own man? Something has to give. There's another example of it. Breaking point and something has to give. Literally, he can't keep walking away from her because the tape measure will only go so far. Figuratively, metaphorically, at some point in him moving away from his mother, he is going to reach a point where he has to break away from her. He has to sever that string, and he has to be able to fly away. And then he says, 2 floors below your fingertips, the mother's, the your, still pinch the last 1/100th of an inch, that the mother's desperately trying to hang on to the son. And then we get that ellipsis, those 3 dots, and that pause, and in that pause is the moment where he realises he has to make that break. I reach towards a hatch that opens on an endless sky, the sky of endless possibilities, that he's reaching towards the future. That endless sky is a sky of unknowns, but of a world where he is his own man. And then the hatch opens on an endless sky to fall or fly. And those 2 lines on those 4 words at the end there on that last line, falling or flying. He's got to make or break. He's got to move away from the comfort zone of being with his mother, and he's got to become his own man. So we see that movement in the poem from the literal move, the actual act of measuring things, towards what that means symbolically, what that means metaphorically to the young man, that the mother will hold on to the tape and will keep holding on to the tape until such time that the son realises that he needs to move beyond the reach of her and become his own man.